Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 Rocket Mortgage Initial Research Show. Hopefully your 3M went a lot better than mine. I think I got maybe two things correct and the rest was atrocious. I was cautious of Hideki and I was pretty high on Adam Long, although he did fade today, the final round. But otherwise, it was pretty poor. My 6K suggestion, Ryan Armour, did not play well at all. I was high on Brendan Steele, Adams Vinson, Cameron Tringali. All of them missed the cut, and therefore my DFS was shot to hell before it even really started. And then I did not bet Tony Finau, but if you do follow me on Twitter, he is one of the players that qualified under the criteria I put forth last Monday. It was him, Maverick McNeely, and Davis Riley. And then the fourth player, Mark Hubbard, withdrew. So Tony Finau did qualify under those circumstances. I just didn't bet him at 11-1. But if you did, congratulations to you, which reminds me, the first shout out, the only shout out that I know of tonight, my friend Bobo had Tony Finau this week. So congratulations, Bobo, on another hit for you. And if you have a hit or a big winning lineup, make sure you let me know in the comments of a show or on social media. Would love to shout you out like I have my friend Troy, my friend Bobo, others who watch the channel, P, all these other supporters. So make sure you let me know if you have a hit and a win. That way I can shout you out at the beginning of the week. So we move to Detroit Golf Club for the Rocket Mortgage. Again, hopefully your 3M went a whole lot better than mine. I do want to hear from you all. Did you have Tony Finau? Did you use him a lot? Did you avoid Hideki? All that good stuff. But let's get into the Rocket Mortgage. So all statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best tool out there. It is going to make you a much smarter gambler and a much better DFS player. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the description to the video, there are links to my social media. The aforementioned research that I put out last week is posted there. I'm going to try and get better about putting that to Instagram as well. And Twitter is also where I post my betting cards. Last week I labeled it all my eggs are in the DFS basket betting card, and you can tell by the intro how well that went. So hopefully we're going to turn it around here at the Rocket Mortgage this week. But if you want to see some of the research that I do throughout the week, letting me know if you have big hits and win tickets and such, give me a follow at the links in the description. And then finally, we're live. Chat is open. As I mentioned, I want to hear about your 3M. I want to hear about anything you're thinking about coming into the Rocket Mortgage. I mentioned that the 3M was poor for me, but the Rocket Mortgage does hold a special place for me. It was the first big hit that I had, at least with calls, and starting this channel. I did have Cam Davis last year, so I'm hoping to duplicate the success and share in that success with you all again this year. So let's do our initial research for the 2022 Rocket Mortgage. And normally we start with the tournament fact sheet, but it is not out. What I can tell you from last year's is Detroit Golf Club measures right under 7,400 yards. I believe it was in the 73-70 area last year. But the one thing that I do know and will be able to use in Fantasy National, it is a Don Ross design. So we'll definitely be able to use this filter, although there are not a whole lot of Don Ross designs on the PGA Tour. The most known Don Ross design is Eastlake, where the Tour Championship is. But it's hard to do a lot of comparisons or looking at that course since there's only 30 players there every year. The other tournament that is consistently held on a Don Ross design is Sedgefield, where we're at next week. So it'll be interesting to compare and contrast the 2 weeks later on in the year, maybe in the off season, to see how they played out. But those are the two big Don Ross designs on the PGA Tour other than Detroit Golf Club. Let's see. Then the other key factor, and we'll talk about it quite a bit in the historic conditions tab, is the putting surface. It's not consistent, and I'll show you why. But as we start our research for the week, there are a few big names here this week. Tony Finau still listed in the field as of now. I would not be surprised if he withdraws after winning the 3M, but he is still listed in the field. Will Zalatoris, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Cameron Young, all here. Maverick McNeely is also here. Down here. So a few big names. My thinking, or my best guess, would be that the guys that are shooting for the top 30, players like Tony Finau, Will Zalatoris, Patrick Cantlay, all of those are using this as their last prep before the BMW. A lot of players don't play the Sedgefield, play the Wyndham Championship at Sedgefield. There are a few of the big names here this week. Let's go ahead and move to the course breakdown. And as I mentioned, we are at Detroit Golf Club. It is about 7,300 yards. Shot, how are you doing? Hopefully your 3M went well. You think Max Homa wins this week? Interesting. I'm not going to say I disagree with you, but he hasn't jumped out at me in the limited research I did today. But Max Homa, obviously a very logical choice. Anytime he really tees it up, really, I think he has cemented himself as one of the better players on tour, to be honest with you. I don't know if I'd call him elite, but he certainly had a hell of a season. Don't know if I'd make him my favorite, but pretty good shout there, I would give you. But hopefully you've been well. Haven't seen you in chat in a while, so thanks for jumping in. But as we come back to Detroit Golf Club, I always like to look at the 9th and 10th most difficult holes just to see how this course is going to play. So the 10th under par, 9th under par, 8th is still under par. You have to come to the 7th most difficult hole. That is 100th over par. So it's going to be very, very easy, even though on the scorecard it says, the 7th most difficult is where the par is. I want you to take a look. The most difficult hole is 0.13 over par, whereas the 18th, half a shot, the 17th, 4/10, 1/3, 15th is still almost a quarter of a shot under par. This is going to be a very easy course. There are lots and lots and lots of birdies. Not necessarily a lot of eagles, although you do have one pretty decent chance and a couple of middlings on these par 5s, but lots and lots and lots of birdies. Lots of birdies and not a whole lot of big numbers, to be honest with you. Like I said, the hardest hole, the very long par 3, 11th, it only plays to a little over 1/10 of a shot over par. This course is easy, and it has played easy all 3 years. My 3M did not go well. Last month has went historically bad. Maybe because I haven't been here. Well, the Open Championship was decent for me, only in the fact that I had Cam Smith and Cam Young in a whole lot of lineups. I'm going to be honest with you, Shot. The Scottish was absolutely atrocious. I don't think I got anything right with the Scottish Open. The 3M was pretty bad for me. So it has not been great for me either. So maybe 2 wrong brains can maybe make a half a right. But it hasn't been good for me either, although I have had one outright winner, JT Poston. I did hit Poston at the John Deere, so that has certainly buoyed the lack of success recently. Oh, and the Barracuda. I was pretty good at the Barracuda. But anyway, we come back to Detroit Golf Club. So, very easy course. We'll look at strokes gained by shot type. And I want you to gravitate towards the 3M last week was all in ball striking. This week, it's the complete opposite. All short game. All short game. And really, it doesn't have a lot with around the green, although it is more of a factor than it has been recently. It is all in putting here this week. All in putting at Detroit Golf Club. So there's your top 10s. Approach is still fairly important, but not nearly as important as some of these most recent tournaments. You come to the top 5s. The putting continues to skyrocket in terms of importance. Winners, almost, 1.7 essentially, so 2.5 times the importance of strokes gained approach. I mean, this is just all putting here at Detroit Golf Club. The approach is really actually pretty mitigated in terms of other courses and other events. This number is rather low for strokes gained approach. So again, as we move down the leaderboard now, so these are your winners. You got your top 5s, still putting, top 10s, still putting. Even if you go to the top 20s, I mean, it's putting. It's putting here. Which means that we're going to have to see if historical putting form or recent putting success, because those are two different things. Some guys can be hot with a putter and bring that momentum in here, or they could just historically be good on the surface that is here at Detroit Golf Club at the Rocket Mortgage. Again, two different things there. We'll have to see if that is, if one of those two, both or neither, are true, why it's such an important factor. So all short game, all predicated on the putting. We come to strokes gained by hole by par. Again, there's your top 10. So fairly even. I believe the y-axis is getting a little cut off there, but this is 0.15. This is 0.1. So all of them fall relatively about the same area. It looks like par 4s are more important, but in relation to each other, they are within 0.05, all of them within each other. So very, very balanced here for the top 10s. You move to the top 5s, starts to get a little bit of separation, a little bit, but not too much. And then the winners, you see the par 5s really take off in terms of importance. Think Cam Davis last year, who's your defending champion, Cameron Davis. He destroyed the par 5s last year. Destroyed them. So, my initial thought is to put a little bit of credence into the par 5s, but we can't ignore the par 3s because we saw through the top 5s and the top 10s, and I'll even check the top 20s, they're all roughly the same throughout most of the leaderboard until you get to the winners. So we'll have to figure out if there's a particular range of 3s, 4s, or 5s, or if there's some hidden added importance via the leaderboards or whatnot. But as of right now, they all appear to be roughly the same in terms of importance. We come to the hole composition, and Detroit Golf Club is very balanced in the sense that there is not a prevailing length within your par 3s, par 4s, and par 5s, minus the par 5s a little bit. So the par 3s, you've got two very short par 3s, here at Detroit Golf Club. You got two from 150 to 175. You've got one 200 to 225, so long, and then the toughest hole on the course, the par 3 11th, measures to 233 on the scorecard, so most of the time it'll play to 225 plus. Your par 4s, you've got four from 350 to 400, and then two shorter par 4s from 400 to 450, and then four from 450 to 500. So you have no par 4s that measure 500 plus. The length of this golf course comes in the par 5s. 3 of the 4 par 5s come from 550 to 600, and then there is one 600 to 650, and it's a long par 5, 635 yards. So it's not the best of eagle chances, but it's still easy. Plays to a quarter of a shot under par. But the rest of the par 5s, 552, it's kind of on the edge there. So it could realistically drop into the 500 to 550. But you have a 555 and a 577 as well. So that is where the length of this golf course comes in. You've got the very long par 3 and long par 5s. So with that, there's the whole composition. We'll have to see if any of the par 4s lengths make a lot of sense. I think the 550 to 600 is going to make a lot of sense again in the limited amount of research that I did today. But that's what the data dive is for tomorrow. And we'll take a look at it a little bit tonight. The approach shot distribution. Very interesting. Most approach shots come from 200 plus, but it's still under the tour average. The furthest approach shot that you actually get more than the tour average has been 125 to 150, and then 100 to 125 there's a lot. 75 to 100 there's quite a bit more than the average tour event, probably from the true 3-shot par 5 and the bevy of 350 to 400 yard par 4s. So as much as this course is 7,300, close to 7,400 yards, 7,370 or so, a lot of shorter approaches. The historic cut line here, -4 the first 2 years, very, very easy. Did get a little tougher last year at -2, but they did have some wind last year, and it had not been classified as moderate or windy any round in the 2 years prior. So makes a little bit of sense why this number rose a little bit, but again, very, very easy. -4, -4, -2. And to emphasize the ease of the golf course, you got more than 22% birdies. You've got 11% bogeys, so double the amount of birdies the bogeys. And then there's not a whole lot of doubles either, so just birdies galore. Not a lot of eagles. For as easy as this course is, not a lot of eagles, just birdies galore. Driving accuracy, higher here than the tour average. Green in regulation percentage, higher than the tour average. Again, speaking to ease of the golf course. Players that have to scramble are much more successful here than the average tour event. Ease of golf course. 3 putts per round, about average, a little bit less. But when you think driving accuracy, sometimes you would think about less driving distance in case guys need to find fairways and stuff. It's not the case here, just bomb. Fairways are easier to hit and long. Kind of like the 3M a little bit. So definitely going to be looking and see if off the tee is another metric we want to look at again this week. And then green and regulation proximity, quite a bit closer, more than 1.5 foot in terms of the average tour event. Almost 29 feet average tour event, here 27.5. So there is a look at Detroit Golf Club from a scorecard and graphical view. We come back to Fantasy Nationals homepage. We're going to skip putting for now. We'll talk about it in the historic conditions like I mentioned right after the intro. But one of the first things we can do, scoring relative to par, easy. We have seen this is just easy. Easy. So you have 25 rounds from Sahith Theegala since the beginning of the calendar year. I'm actually going to expand that out to the beginning of the PGA Tour season just to get a few more rounds on these guys. I kind of want to see, upwards in the 30s. I want most players to have 20 or give themselves the longer time period to have 20 rounds. You see Grayson Sigg has 36. Most of these guys have in the 20s, like I had wanted to see. You come down here, you've got a few guys that don't have any in terms of easy rounds, but all but 10 guys have at least double digits. So this is what I was wanting to see, just to get enough data. So since the beginning of the PGA Tour season, all the way back to the Fortinet, your top players when rounds are easy: Danny Lee, Maverick McNeely, Mark Hubbard, Cam Young, Taylor Moore, Davis Riley, Patrick Cantley, Russell Henley, Tyler Duncan, and Matt Kuchar. Interesting stuff there. We take a look at Don Ross. Again, this is a Don Ross design. So not too many rounds. As I mentioned in the intro or the beginning of the show, essentially after the intro, there are only 2 courses regularly on the PGA Tour that have Don Ross as the design. That's a full field, I should say. Detroit Golf Club, where we are this week, and Sedgefield, where the Wyndham Championship is. So those are the only 2 courses with full fields of a Don Ross design. Now, he did design Eastlake, so you can't ignore it, but that field is always just 30 players, site of the tournament, or the site of the Tour Championship. So we're going to have to extend pretty far back. And in fact, I'm just going to say all records, and hopefully say 24 rounds. Hopefully we're not going back too far. Think someone like Kevin Kisner, who's the defending champion at the Wyndham. Hopefully we're not going back too far. Where is Kiz? I know he plays, there he is, so number 2. Gosh dang it, I did not mean to click that one, I want that one. 2019, perfect. He does have a little bit of Tour Championship in there. But that might be okay. Let's check somebody who might not be. Ryan Armour, for example. 2017. I don't like to go back that far, but I think it's probably going to be the best that we can do. And I don't want to go 36 rounds because then we'll be going back 2013, 2014, all that stuff. So, in the past 24 rounds on Don Ross designs, either at the Rocket Mortgage, at the Wyndham, or at the Tour Championship, those 3 places, your top performers on Don Ross designs: Jason Day, Kevin Kisner, Rory Sabatini, Ryan Armour, Chris Kirk, Sepp Straka, Webb Simpson, Denny McCarthy, Mackenzie Hughes, and Maverick McNeely. McNeely might be a bit of an outlier among those 10, as he has only played the Rocket Mortgage and he only has 8 rounds. Now, he's made the cut in both of the Rocket Mortgages he's played, but he is far less in terms of exposure to Don Ross designs. But other than that, there's your top 10. Feel pretty good about that. Stinks that you have to go back to 2017, but it is what it is. Let's remove Don Ross. And the reason why I am not going to putting, let me reset this for the PGA Tour season. And the reason why I haven't done anything with putting yet, we'll go to, I wanted the last 36 rounds. What are you doing? All right. So you go to the historic conditions. We talked about how it's been easy. It's been easy. 11 of the 12 rounds historically here at Detroit Golf Club. It's just an easy tournament. But why we haven't done anything with the greens? Last year, it was classified as bent. The first 2 years was classified as POA. But we have never changed sites. It's always been a Detroit Golf Club. What that means is, I think it's going to play to POA, but I can't guarantee it because last year it was classified as bent. I checked last year's tournament fact sheet. It listed bent and POA. So with no tournament fact sheet out tonight, at least, it's hard to do anything with putting. When the tournament fact sheet comes out, I'll start the show with it tomorrow. But it's going to be hard to do anything with putting considering it has changed throughout the years, or at least it changed last year. So I'd be curious to hear your all's take, whether you think it's bent, whether you think it's POA. We do know that whatever it's going to be, it's fast. It's been fast all 3 years. The rough has always been long, and the course is measured from 72 to 7,400 yards. The one thing I don't know is if it's bent or POA, because the tournament fact sheet will list both. So that's why I'm not doing anything with putting right now. Let's move to the tournament history tab. And I've went ahead and sorted this by the strokes gained total. You see here your most strokes gained total player of the 3 years is Kevin Kisner, and Cameron Tringali, Nate Lashley, who surprisingly, he was the inaugural winner in 2019 and then has missed the cut the next 2 seasons. So interesting to see there. On the flip side, you've got Troy Merritt, who missed the cut the first year and then goes tied for 8th, tied for 2nd. Similar to Nate Lashley, in the sense he's 1 for 3 with a win. Cameron Davis missed the cut, wins. So there does not seem to be a whole lot of consistency across the Rocket Mortgage, save maybe a Kevin Kisner, who still has a medium performance. Cameron Tringali, all of his are top 30s. You do have Chris Kirk, a top 15 in the top 25. Maverick McNeely, a top 10 in the top 25. So, but there's not a whole lot of consistency. I mean, Cameron Davis, miscut, win. Hankley Biota, miscut, tied for 4th. We come to the other end of the spectrum, guys who just don't play the Rocket Mortgage well for whatever reason. Brian Gay, 0 for 3. Martin Trainer, 0 for 3. Sam Ryder, 0 for 3. Chesson Halley, 1 for 3. Let's see, some of these other players, Malnati, Michael Thompson, Scott Piercy, who collapsed today at the 3M. He's 0 for 1 here. Bo Hostler, 1 for 3 with a top 25. So, again, just more inconsistent results is what I would list them as. Your 2020 champion is not here. He's not allowed to be here due to the PGA's treatment of live players, however you feel about it. Bryson DeChambeau is your winner in 2020. There's a look at the tournament history, the strokes gained total, and I'll make sure to bring up the early look file, the color-coded file for you all towards the end of the show. Has Max never played Don Ross Design? He isn't on the list anywhere. Well, we can check. Let's see. Max Homa. So he has played a Don Ross Design. He's played the Rocket Mortgage to a middling success. A middling finish here and a top 25 last year. That we can go back and check since we just finished that. Max Homa. So we saw the Rocket Mortgage. The only other one would be the Wyndham. So we'll check the Wyndham. He has missed the cut both times, but it's from 2015 and 2017. He's a lot different player. He's a lot better player now than he was then. So I'm more willing to forgive these results. However, Don Ross, I would say he's probably middling. Probably middling in terms of performance. In fact, why don't we just take a look here? We'll resort Don Ross. Let's go. Yeah, we're just going to have to go back to the same 24 rounds. All records. Let's see where Max is. Homa. Homa would rank 115th. And again, you've got that 2017 Wyndham here. And, well, he's got the 2015 and 2017 Wyndham here. Like, he lost 10 strokes total to the field the second round of the Wyndham. I mean, he does not like that course. But he's played okay at the Rocket Mortgage. So, is he, 115th or whatever on Don Ross Designs in this field? I'd probably say no. But that's what the data is saying right now. Just realize if you see some flashes of light, a thunderstorm is rolling in. So if you hear any thunder or whatnot, or if I get distracted and look up, that is why. Life is great always in the Midwest. But I'm going to try to get through as much of this as I can before the storm comes. So there's a look at that. Let's take a look, and let me again reset this for the turn or the year PGA Tour season. You can tell the lightning and storm is distracting me. Ooh, shiny. So anyway, let's move to the leaderboards, and we'll just take a look at last year's, and we'll cover 2019, 2020 tomorrow in the Data Dive show. But let's just take a cursory look here at last year's leaderboard, see what kind of played and what didn't. We saw that strokes gained approach, while mitigated, it's still somewhat important. You're still going to have to hit your irons here. In fact, I've got this highlighted for the top 20, convenient for ties. There was only one player that was negative in strokes gained approach, but there isn't a high number here. A lot of times you'll see winners in the 6, 7, maybe even in the 8s. You know, your top or your winner was only 4.5. You've got a 5.3 and a 5.5. That's not very high in terms of high leaderboard success, especially in strokes gained approach, compared to putting. You do have 2 players negative, but you have an 8.7, a 6.3, 5.7, 6.1, 7.2. It's all putting. I mean, look at this. I mean, this is the kind of correlation you would expect to find with strokes gained approach. Top 15, runner up. Top 15, top 5, top 15, top 10, runner up. 25, 15. I mean, there's just a whole lot of putting success here. 8.7, the highest. You come to strokes gained approach. Still high. I mean, high finishes here. You know, top 15, but we didn't say top 35 at all for putting. There's a middling finish. Top 15, top 10, 25, 15, yada, yada, yada. You had the 8.7, the top in the putting, 6.2 with the strokes gained approach. Off the tee, middling. So reinforces the fact that it's a lot of putting, which really stinks because it's going to be hard to figure out, or at least for me, I have no confidence in saying whether it's going to be bent or going to be POA because it's listed as both, and it's been both according to Fantasy National. So we might have to just go and see if somebody has a hot putter, if somebody putts well on bent or putts well on POA. We'll have to really, really dig into it. So there's a look at the strokes gained. Let's take a look at birdies and bogeys. Again, this is such an easy tournament. Birdies gained 8.6. I mean, top 10, winner, runner-up, top 10, top 10, top 15. So 8.6 in birdies, 8.4 in bogeys. So actually very, very similar last year. So if we sort, again, for the same top 20, everybody is positive in birdies gained. There's only one player negative in terms of bogeys avoided. So from that standpoint, birdies gained would be more important. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just giving this an eyeball. There's a whole lot more in birdies gained than bogeys avoided. Now, yes, you had that 8.4, you have a 7.4, but you got a lot of 4s, a couple 0.4, 2.4s. Over here, you've got 6s, 5s, 7s. Birdies gained is a lot more here at Detroit Golf Club. But you see, the Eagles gained not really all that much. You know, K.H. Lee, missed the cut. Boho, top 35. Vincent Whaley, middling to clunker. Then 2 missed cuts. Like, don't think Eagles is going to be all that much. Going to be looking at birdies gained. Let's see. We'll come into the par 3s, 4s, 5s, and I really want to look at proximity. So we look at the par 3s. We remember there were 2 that measured here, 1 measured here, and 1 measured here. I don't see a whole lot of correlation here, to be honest with you. I mean, you've got a pretty poor performance from Kevin Tway. Slightly negative from Pat Perez and Sung Jae. But, I mean, your winner was only 1.5. Alex Noren was 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 is your highest. Let's see if any range made a difference. 3 from 150 to 175. Not a lot. 200 to 225, 2.6, 2.4. So does not look like there is a whole lot in terms of extreme importance for par 3s. We look at the par 4s. 8.1 from Joaquin Niemann, 7.1, but I mean your winner, 3.1. He didn't take advantage of the par 4s. Let's see, we have 4 in this range, 6.2. There's some pretty good correlation here. Kevin Kisner, so top 10, runner-up, top 5, top 10, 15, 15, middling. Yeah, so pretty good correlation here at the very top of the 350 to 400 par 4s. And there's 4 of them that measure in this length. 400 to 450, a 5.9, 6.2, 5.9. Not as strong a correlation, but the top end, certainly the same. 450 to 500, 6.1. But again, not as strong in terms of upper leaderboard success. I mean, you can see the propensity of high finishes here. That leads me to believe that 350 to 400 was probably slightly more important than the other 2, at least in terms of last year, and we'll really dig into that tomorrow on the data dive. Par 5s, we had 3 that measured in here on the scorecard, but you can imagine at least one of them, and maybe 2 of these came into here because it was a 552 and a 557. Then you had a 635 here. And this is where your winner really took advantage of the golf course last year. Cam Davis, 6.9. I mean, he might be the leader. Yeah. So Cam Davis, 6.9. 5.9, top 10. 5.9, top 15. Top 25. Now, Bryson did miss the cut last year. Took advantage of the par 5s. But this is where your winner did. Let's see, 550 to 600, there's a 5 there and a 2.3. So yeah, this is almost the same kind of leaders and numbers that you had in just straight par 5s. You had a couple of miscuts, but let's see. If we highlight for the same top 20, again, look at all these. So it looks like there's a bunch that are negative in terms of strokes gained par 5, but I want you to notice the amount. A tenth, a tenth, a tenth. All of them are negative a tenth. Essentially, everybody was field average or better at par 5s. You do have 3 players that were -1 in terms of 550 to 600, but the rest of them, the field average or better. So par 5s, 550 to 600 might be something that we take a look at. And then finally, let's look at proximity. Even though the majority of approach shots came from 200 plus here at this course, and that we get that from the course breakdown, it's not by a lot, but majority of approach shots come from this length. There's a lot of shorter ones too. So let's see if any of these proximities really take effect. Let's see. So Cam Davis was negative in terms of total procs. That's not great. Niemann was very good from 200 plus. I mean, your winner was positive in 200 plus. Let's see. Let's just highlight the top 20 here and see if we get a strong feeling about something. So 175 to 200, there's not a whole lot of big numbers except for maybe Mackenzie Hughes down here. 150 to 175 does not look like it matters at all. See, look at 75 to 100. Very interesting. You've got a huge number here from Hank Lebioda, but the rest of these are field average or better. I mean, Cam Davis was slightly negative. Troy Merritt, middling negative. Very interesting to see, and this is why I have trouble with proximity. Look at procs total. Tom Hoagie was pretty bad, but you have pretty good little bit of correlation here. Then you have some more, then you have some more, good performances, middling to clunkers. I don't know. Total procs. What really kind of stood out to me was 175 to 200, for me at least, in my beginnings of research. But last year didn't really matter a whole lot. So it'll be interesting to see how 2019 and 2020 stack up to last year's. I believe that's probably going to do it for the Fantasy National portion. Again, not a whole lot to get into with no putting. Really want to save a whole lot of this data dive or data digging for the data dive tomorrow. But we can look at some Microsoft Excel stuff. So we move over to there, and I think actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the comparison course. There is the ugliness that gathers all of this information. So we look at the Rocket Mortgage here, and we saw this in the graphs, in the breakdown in Fantasy National. Off the tee, not important, very mitigated. Ball striking in general. Approach, a little bit more important, but not really all that much. Even around the green, compared to other full field courses, not really all that important. It is all in putting. All in putting. Distance, somewhat important. You come over here, even greens for that matter. Greens in regulation, not as important as some other places on the PGA Tour. But what you will see, birdies gained, almost one full shot more important than other full field courses. It is all birdies all the time, all at the Detroit Golf Club. All the alls of birdies. Birdies here, birdies there. I wouldn't get birdies because I'm not very good, but this course hands out birdies for free. So we're going to really, really, really focus on birdies. Par threes, we kind of saw this middling to not very important at all. Right about right about tour average, really, for full field courses. I can't talk tonight. Par fours, very, very mitigated in terms of importance. Now, the 350 to 400s, we saw this in the leaderboard from 2021 last year. It was pretty strong in correlation. It's saying year over year, 350 to 400 does seem to be more important than the average tour event. So that's something maybe we can look at or dig in tomorrow. Par fives, about what I expected. A little bit more important, again, just because the birdies galore here. Not a lot of eagles, but birdies galore. The 550 to 600 is about 4/10 of a shot more important here at the Rocket Mortgage than other courses. So again, another course we're going to look at 550 to 600. We did that for the 3M last week. And then proximity. We'll look at proximity lastly. Pretty negative in terms of total. You have a little bit here, a little bit of positive in the 200 plus, but not a whole lot, to be honest with you. Not a whole lot. If anything, what we've gathered from previous seasons, specifically around the data, par fives, 550 to 600, maybe par fours, 350 to 400, perhaps, and all the birdies, all the time. Feeling like Oprah. You get a birdie, and you get a birdie, and you get a birdie. So, birdies, 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 and putting. So those four statistics. Now we'll come to the early look file or the color-coded chart, however you want to consider it. These are the players that have played well here. Actually, these are all the players that have played here. Their strokes gained total broken out by the various statistics. So you see here, Jonathan Bird and Matt Wallace have each played it once. They came in 12th in the way they got around Detroit Golf Club. I'm going to filter this for players that have played it at least 2 of the 3 years and to see what statistics that those players have done well. You see Maverick McNeely, average of a 15th. He's putt all throughout here. Tringali has been all in approach, but he's putt well. Chris Kirk is all short game. That's what you would expect. Mackenzie Hughes, putting. Kisner, irons and putting. Usually a good combination. Norlander, all in approach. Hagee, surprisingly, well, I shouldn't say surprisingly, he is an off-the-tee type player, so off the tee and putting. Let's see. Ricky, 3 for 3, average of a top 30. Hit his irons well here. Decent enough with the putting. Let's take a look as we go across here. Birdies gained. You see just the high propensity of birdies gained of the players that have played this well. It's just important. Maverick McNeely, about the same. Cameron Tringali, slightly more in bogeys avoided. But then you have Chris Kirk, Mackenzie Hughes, Kevin Kisner, Hagee. Actually, Hagee's about even. So, I mean, you just got these big numbers here in the birdies gained, whereas the bogeys avoided fluctuates, but they're all still positive. Let's take a look at these par 3s, 4s, and 5s that we've seen. Not a lot stood out in the par 3s. So, but all of these guys are still above field average. Like, the lowest is a 0.2, but some of these guys have been playing these par 3s pretty well. So, interesting to see there. Look at the par 4s. Again, a whole lot of similarity here. -0.5 and -1. But otherwise, you've got some larger numbers. Kevin Kisner really taking advantage of the par 4s. Chris Kirk, Mackenzie Hughes. Let's look at the 350 to 400. Now, surprisingly, you actually see that there's a heavy red from Keegan. You got some negative numbers here if 350 to 400 is indeed the most important. So, interesting to see there. Finally, we'll go to the par 5s, and if it's consistent, it should be the 550 to 600. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you do have a poor performer in Kevin Kisner. Length's never been his thing. Fairly poor performer in Brian Stewart, Scott Stallings, but the par 5s and the length are pretty much matching up here. 1.5 to 1.1, 2.6 to 2.7, 1.9 to 1.9. You get the drift. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to be looking at 550 to 600 par 4 or par 5s again. I think that's probably going to do it. I know it's a bit on the shorter side, about 10 minutes short, but this storm looks pretty good that's coming in. So I am wanting to make sure I don't lose power right in the middle of the stream. I want to thank you for tuning in, watching, listening, and supporting the channel. Shot, it was great to see you in chat again. Appreciate it. Hopefully you're able to come back and we can not continue our losing streak. Let's turn it around towards the end of the PGA Tour season. For everyone else out there that wasn't able to jump in chat, put it in the comments. How was your 3M? What kind of players are you looking at early on? Shot mentioned Max Homa. Are you on him as well? Who else are you thinking about? All that good stuff. Again, just appreciate the support that you show for the channel. For all of the wagers you had this past week at the 3M, for all of your DFS contests you had this past week for the 3M, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.